This video is on Cupressus x leylandii. This is Leyland cypress in the Cupressaceae family. The cypress family, the cone scale shape is peltate, and the epithet means named after C.J. Leyland. So this is the only hybrid we're going to learn in this course. You'll notice there's that X between the genus and the specific epithet that denotes a hybrid. So this is a hybrid that occurred in cultivation in England a long time ago when Nootka cypress, which is Cupressus nootkatensis, and Monterey cypress, which is Cupressus macrocarpa, were brought together and planted next to each other in a garden, and then they naturally hybridized and produced this tree, which is a really common landscaping plant here in the United States. It's used as screening, so you can see here, and we've got a line of Leyland cypresses that form this nice green hedge, really thick evergreen foliage, produces a nice green wall, so to speak. But this tree is also really subject to bagworms, which will defoliate this plant, and wind throw can also damage this tree. It's a very salt tolerant tree though, and again, very common in the landscape here in North Carolina. So to identify this tree, we'll look at these leaves. So the leaves are going to be nice and small and scale-like, so similar to our eastern red cedar and our thuya that we've already learned in this class. Those really tiny, overlapping, scale-like leaves. So let's talk about the difference between these three species we've learned so far. So we've got our Leyland cypress here, and let's talk about the juniper first, because that's pretty different. So our eastern red cedar here at the top, look how bunched and clumped this foliage is. You know, it doesn't lie in that nice flat spray. So look at this, look how bunched that foliage is. It's got these really small scales along these branchlets, and the clumped foliage is a really good difference between these two, because we got a nice flat spray here. You'll notice nice flat two-ranked spray of branchlets that those scales are lying alongside here on our Leyland cypress. And if we look at the trees, so they're actually right next to each other here. Here's our eastern red cedar over there. Look how much more open that foliage is. The foliage tends to be clumped towards the ends of the branches, and it's got that nice open look to the tree. You can see the trunk all the way in, all the way up the tree. And over here is our much denser Leyland cypress. Like, you can't even see the trunk in there, how dense that foliage is. So that's another way to tell those two apart if you're just looking at the tree. But this is probably going to be more similar to Thuya occidentalis, which is our northern white cedar or arborvitae. So here we've got a clipping of the northern white cypress, or northern white cedar rather. And again, you're going to see these two-ranked sprays of those scale-like leaves, very similar here. So here's our Leyland cypress at the top and the northern white cedar down below. But these sprays tend to be more rounded, especially at the end. So you'll see how these branches just kind of end in a nice rounded shape. But look how pointed these branches are at the end. See how these branches really come to those nice pointed tips on Leyland cypress. They really tend to stick out a lot. You can see all these pointed ends of the branches all the way around. Look at those pointed ends right there. That's the way I like to tell them apart. If you look closer, you'll notice just how flat this Thuya occidentalis branchlet is. It's almost like it's ironed. Now those scale-like leaves are really flat. If you run your fingers along them, and these sprays are almost like they're ironed. Once again, nice flat sprays. Now these on the Leyland cypress are going to be pretty flat too, but not nearly as iron flat as the northern white cedar. So that's how you're going to tell these two apart. You can really see this ridge going alongside each of these little branchlets. You can feel a little ridge going down the branchlet. It's much easier to see these in person. Trying to convey this over video is pretty tough. So I strongly recommend you come out here and look at the difference between these two in person. But again, you're looking for these nice pointed branch tips along these scale-like leaves, of course, all the way along these branchlets. Really dense evergreen foliage, and these two-ranked flat sprays of foliage. But there is a little ridge along each of these branchlets, so it's not quite as iron flat as our Thuya occidentalis is. I'll mention the bark real quick, because we haven't talked about that yet. It's going to be reddish brown, kind of shreddy and fibrous. You can see how it's kind of flaking off here. Maybe not as fibrous as Eastern Red Cedar, but still divide into these nice elongated strips in that reddish brown color. Pretty similar to our other cypresses. So that's our Leyland cypress.